My favorite dish growing up is the Cheung Fun, or rice roll. More specifically the beef one, but I also like the shrimp and fried dough one too. I remember growing up, whenever it was my birthday, my mom would go out to my favorite dim sum restaurant and buy me a whole stack of a dozen. To this day, it's still my favorite dish, and if I weren't on this blasted diet, I'd be eating this at least 2 to 3 times a week. Now, I never knew how to make this, but then magically one day, as if TikTok were listening to me, a video appeared on my For You page of a chef using this rice roll steamer box. I saw it and I knew how to buy it. So in today's video, I'm going to explain how it works first, then show you how I make my beef Cheung Fun, and lastly, give a quick review. I've made this dish dozens of times already, and I really want to show you my recipe and how this box works. When I first got this thing, it really only came with a few pieces. This rice roll box right here, 2 trays, this scraper, and lastly, this small wooden peg that you use to cover up this hole right here. So, how does this box work? It's just a few easy steps. You first pour water into the box through this opening here. Then, you toss the tray in, like so. Turn on medium heat. The water in here will steam the Cheung Fun, and after a few minutes, you're ready to go. So that's how this thing works. Now comes the fun part, the recipe. These are all the ingredients you need for the rice roll. Rice flour, tapioca starch, water. This is everything you need for the beef. Ground beef, 80% lean, 20% fat. Soy sauce, sesame oil, chicken powder or MSG, an egg, mirin, if you don't have mirin, sugar, oyster sauce, this is extremely important. And lastly, these are all the ingredients you need for the sauce. Soy sauce, dark soy sauce, sugar, chicken powder, and finally, sesame oil. Let's start with the rice roll batter. What you're gonna do, you can pour out 1 cup of rice flour. Then you're gonna do half a cup of tapioca starch. You wanna add half a cup of tapioca starch for that chewiness. And then 3 cups of water. You can play around with the ratios, but this has worked best for me. Now, just stir. You wanna stir until you don't see any clumps anymore and until it's nice, even, and thorough. All right, let's do the beef next. For the beef, I like to use about 8 ounces or half a packet. Take your 1 egg, 1 nice fat dollop of oyster sauce. With a lot of Asian cooking, you don't have to be super exact. It's still gonna taste great. A spoonful of mirin. If you don't have mirin, use sugar. A dribble of sesame oil, not too much because this thing is potent. 1 smaller scoop of MSG, or chicken powder. After you have everything in the bowl, mix thoroughly. Okay, you're gonna take your tray, you're gonna spray it with cooking oil first. Or non-stick oil. Then take your rice flour mix it up a little bit more, just because some of the rice flour might have settled. And then just pour it in until it covers the tray. You can add more or less depending on how thick you want it to be. I like mine a little thicker, so I'm gonna add a little bit more. Then you wanna take your beef and make 2 thin slices going down the middle. After you're done, take your spoon, mush it down. You want them to be nice and flat. Now comes the cooking part. Add some water first into the back. Do this nozzle right here. Turn on the stove to medium heat. Once you start to see steam coming out of the edges and the nozzle, you can put your tray in. Make sure you wiggle the tray a little bit because some of the flour might have settled. Toss it in. We want to give it about 4 minutes. While we're waiting for the rice roll to cook, we can work on the sauce. You can grab your soy sauce, 3 spoonfuls of soy sauce, a little bit less than a spoonful of dark soy sauce. It gives it a bit of color, a small tidbit of chicken broth, a little drizzle of sesame oil, and then a nice fat wallop of sugar. Add a little bit of water to dilute and mix. Again, you don't have to be exact. And that's how you make the sauce. Make sure you consistently keep adding water. I made the mistake of letting it dry out before, and that will actually warp the metal and damage the box. What's nice is when you pour water into the nozzle, it doesn't actually go on top of the tray, it goes below it. Notice how the tray doesn't go to the very end. 30 seconds to a minute before you take it out. You want to check on it. And you want to pour out any of the water that's resting on top. Stick it back in for another 30 seconds to a minute. The longer you let it in, the chewier it's gonna be. So I like my chewy, I'm gonna leave it in for another 45 seconds or so. Now when you take it out, make sure you're always protecting your hand. This handle can get kind of hot. This is what it should look like. If you see some bubbles on top, it's fine, it won't affect the taste. When you take it out, you wanna let it sit for about 30 seconds to a minute so that the rice flour can cool down and firm up. Once enough time has passed, you wanna take your scraper, measure out about the middle, and cut. This will help your rolling, okay? And then start scraping. Scrape, roll over, drop, scrape, roll over. I'm not the best at scraping yet, but it's getting there. And there we go. The first batch. Look at that. There we go. What you want to do now, you want to drizzle your sauce over the top. Take your fork, cut into it. Oh, look at that. And that's how you make beef Cheung Fun, or in Chinese we call it Niu Cheung Fun. Overall, what's my review? 10 out of 10. Easy to use, easy to clean. When I'm done, I just take the trays, put them in the dishwasher, and they're good to go. It's a little bit expensive at $60, but it's a price I'm willing to pay for my favorite food. Amazon links in the description below, as well as the list of ingredients. That's all for today, folks. If you found this useful, drop a like and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you for the next one.